Jada's lying, and I have the timeline to prove it. Jada is currently on her Pay Attention to Me tour, and she is making all these wild claims, including that Tupac proposed to her while he was at Rikers. Really? The math isn't mathing, so let's take a look. Tupac was convicted of sexual assault charges on February 8th, 1995. From there, he was sent to Rikers Prison, only to be transferred less than a month later to Clinton Correctional Facility. And she specifically said she went to see him. This was not on the phone.
When I go to see him in Rikers, probably one of the more painful parts, seeing him there, the condition that he was in, and having to leave him there.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Cool. So prior to going into Rikers, Tupac already had a girlfriend named Keisha. He proposed to Keisha, her words, in a September 2011 interview. He proposed to Keisha before he even went into prison. They were already engaged. They got married in April. And in the time that he got sentenced and was taken to prison, Keisha actually moved closer to be by him and be by the prison and saw him on a near daily basis.
When he asked me to get married, he was at Rikers.
So you're telling me that in the 3 to 4 week window that he was at Rikers, engaged to another woman who had moved closer to the prison and was there almost every day, Tupac proposed to Jada. But hey, Jess, you might be saying to yourself, Tupac wasn't known to be a one-woman man. He was no angel. Fair enough. Let's see where Jada was during February of 1995, which was, as we've already established, the only time she would have been able to see Tupac at Rikers since he was only there for less than a month. You see, Jada had already met Will Smith in 1994 on the set of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but Will Smith was married, and so nothing happened between them. But in February of 1995, Will Smith was served divorce papers by his wife. 5 days later, on February 19th, Will called Jada and said, "Are you single?" And she said, "Yep." Will said, "We're together now." Jada said, "Cool."
Your thoughts?
What? And she immediately flew to LA. She flew so immediately that when he called her, she was in Maryland at a brand new house she bought. And she never spent a single night in her new house. That's how immediately she flew to LA. When, in all that time, did you visit Tupac at Rikers and get this fucking proposal? And for the record, Keisha and Tupac stayed married for about 10 months. They got their marriage annulled about 4 or 5 months after Tupac was released from prison. He was bailed out by Suge Knight. It wasn't long after that that he met Kidada Jones. Kidada Jones is the daughter of legendary Quincy Jones. Kidada looks a little recognizable. You may know her sister, Rashida Jones, who played Karen on The Office. Kidada and Tupac were living together and engaged when Tupac was shot and killed. Kidada was the one that was there with him at the hospital the night he died. Kidada was handed his bloody clothes. She was the one who told him, "We all love you," before he slipped into a coma and never woke up. Keisha spoke with Tupac several days before he died because even though their marriage was annulled, they still remained good friends. And I can't help but notice that all of the women who are actually part of his life in a meaningful way are the ones that have just kept quiet. They've kept silent. They've kept their memories to themselves and not tried to use a dead man as their limelight. And the person who's squawking about him the most is making claims that can't even be verified and don't make sense from the perspective of a verifiable timeline.
I see why we love you.
Pause.
He needed a rock. Because of our friendship and because of everything we had been through together, he just wanted to feel that solidified foundation.
Because so many people in that position don't have support.
Right.
None at all.
None. You know?
He got the best.
He did get the best, but not from Jada, because per Will Smith's own words, that him and Jada were pretty much humping all over the world. They were traveling constantly from the first 3 months they were together, all over the world.
This is outrageous. Right to jail, right away.
So Tupac did get some great support, I imagine, from his wife, who moved closer to be with him and visited him every day. And why do I care? Because I'm Gen X. And like any good Gen X person, I grew up on Tupac. We all remember this going down. We all remember where we were when we heard that Tupac got shot or that he died. We all had this fucking hat from Poetic Justice, walking around looking like newsies, slinging newspaper about the Great Depression and FDR. And we're all just sitting here watching Jada spout these lies, being like, do you think no one remembers? Because we all remember. Pepperidge Farm remembers, Jada.
You see what I'm talking about? The nonsense strikes again. I knew this bitch was a fucking grifter. This whole shit sounds like some fucking made up bullshit that she's using on a fucking press tour to sell her fucking book. First of all, could you imagine seeing Will Smith and the family all cheering for her, especially Will, cheering for her? Oh, look at the book. Oh, we're so proud of you. Meanwhile, she's stabbing you in the back 8 million times in the book, talking about her soulmate. So how were you Tupac's soulmate while you were getting your back blown out all over the world by Will Smith? Explain that to me. How is that real? Like this is all bullshit. And I'm glad that Shorty went down into the first 48 levels of fucking analysis where we could clearly see that this bitch was not in the same area code as Rikers Island or Clinton Correctional Facility at the time that she said Tupac was proposing to her. And at the time Tupac was proposing to her, he was already engaged. Then marries that girl, gets it annulled, gets engaged to another girl, and then dies. Where were you, soulmate? I don't want to. I do know where you were. You were with Will Smith, fucking around. And even before that, I don't know where you were, but you weren't there. Stop fucking playing with me, bro. Like, and the most wild part about this is not the clout grab that she's trying to do off of Tupac, right? But it's the fact that, one, it's clearly a lie, and two, you're lying and continuing to emasculate your, I don't know what the fuck he is, husband, not husband, whatever fucking lies y'all niggas be telling us, because we can't even tell whether y'all were really separated since 2016 or you're just saying that. Because as people have gone over this scenario and they're looking at all the videos that you made and all the interviews you did between 2016 and now, and the way you were talking and the way you were acting and the way Will was talking, the way Will was acting, there's nothing there for us to really think y'all are separated. And the fact that bullshit you made up about Chris Rock, I don't even know if that's real, but you said he tried to hit on you because he thought he heard you were getting divorced. You told him no, you weren't getting divorced. So which is it? Were you together or are you not together? Because if you're separated to the tune of being able to do what you want, why didn't you go on a date with Chris Rock? Right? Because Chris wasn't with his wife anymore either. Or I don't understand what this fucking behavior is. All of this just leads me to believe that she is the worst person walking this fucking planet. Oh my God, imagine to have a wife like that, boy. Will every day, probably every time she makes a video, want to fling himself from the top of the nearest building. This shit is ridiculous. He's making videos talking about, oh, I'm unbothered. That nigga is bothered. I know he is. The way he slapped dog shit out of Chris Rock, he's heavily bothered. Fuck are you talking about? Nobody could act like that who isn't bothered. And no one could, and did you see his face on the Red Table Talk? That was real. That's not emotion over something that happened in the past.
That's definitely bothered.
That I've now moved on from, and I'm now doing something else because we're, quote, separated, right? No, that's a current problem. You can see it in his face. I don't understand the lies, bro. Make it make sense to me, please.
I mean, I can't make it make sense because she's confusing the fuck out of me.
Right.
Because so many times that she's been asked about her and Tupac, were they together and everything else like that, because the way that their connection was, it's so loving, it looks like a relationship. So many times she's been asked this and she says, no, we were never dating, we were only friends, platonic friends, there was no chemistry, and yet now all of a sudden you're sitting here saying that that's your soulmate, that he proposed to you.
Right.
Like, I'm so freaking confused right now, it's not even funny.
Right. Not gonna lie, the amount of pussy Tupac got,
right,
I don't believe he's proposing to a bitch he ain't never sleep with. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, especially back in them times, there's no way.
Right.
There's no way, Jada. Like, I don't believe you. Like, even if we want to go with the fact that Tupac's a dirty dog or something, he fucking every bitch. Okay, we'll go with that narrative for right now. That may or may not have been true. So, he proposed to you while already having a fiance. First of all, that's fucking dumb because you can't actually execute both of those. But if he did that, you telling me that you the only bitch in the whole world who Tupac ain't fucked and he proposed to you? I don't believe that. Yeah. And then you add on the fact that there was no chemistry. A nigga don't need chemistry to fuck a girl. If he thinks she looks good, that's sufficient. Tupac thought you looked good back then. So what's the problem? Like, this whole thing doesn't make sense to me. It's like if he was her soulmate and she said they slept together once or something, that would make her story actually more credible. But the fact that she's saying that they never slept together, yet he was her soulmate and he proposed to her, like, I don't fucking believe you. Like, I don't. You're a liar. Like, I think Jada's just a pathological liar. I think that's where we are. Shorty is a pathological liar, and she hates Will Smith. It has to be.
Maybe.
Get the fuck out of here. She's a rat, nigga. A fucking rat.